Hello, MBA hopefuls, and welcome to MBA Waves. I'm Eric Lucrezia, your host, and as usual, I'm joined with my co-host, Bara Sapir. Hi, Bara.
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Welcome.
MBA Waves is your weekly vidcast talking all things business and education. And this week, we are joined by Questrom School of Business at Boston University. I'm super excited to have these guys here with us today. Hey, Boston, how are you?
We're doing great.
Welcome to MBA Waves. So let's just go around the room and introduce who's joining us today. We'll start
Sure.
with Liz, I guess.
I'm happy to start. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Liz Wagoner, and I am Director of Admissions for the Online MBA here at the Questrom School of Business. And I'm thrilled to participate and talk a little bit more about our different MBA programs here at Boston University.
Thanks, Liz. And next up, Anya.
Hi, everyone. My name's Anya Gelernt-Dunkle. I'm excited to get to talk to you today. I am our Associate Director working on our Professional Evening MBA. That is our part-time residential, so in person here at Questrom on campus, our part-time program that meets in the evening, as the title describes. I'm really excited to get to talk to all of you, tell you a little bit about BU.
Awesome. Thank you, Anya. And last but not least, Marisa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Marisa Morgan. I am an associate director here in graduate admissions, and I work most closely with our full-time MBA program, which is also the residential program here on campus.
Awesome. Thank you. Bart, did you want to take it away with the questions?
Sure. I'm going to I guess I didn't exactly introduce myself. So I'm Bara Sapir, and I'm with City Test Prep and Mindflow, and I'm in San Francisco. And Eric, when you get a chance, you'll be able to say who you're with as well, candidate coach, and we run MBA Waves. So what I want to know is what's really new and exciting at BU Questrom? Anyone?
I suppose I'll kick us off. It's not so new anymore, but it feels really new to me, is our Online MBA. We launched it sort of new still in fall 2020 and really exciting. So it was sort of in the works before the pandemic, but of course the pandemic, I think, made online learning more accessible to a lot of people, and they realized this is something that they can participate in and have a really great experience. And so we were really excited to sort of be able to launch our program during the early days of the pandemic. And so the Online MBA has been going now for a couple of cohorts, and our first cohort is graduating this end of August. So we're really excited to sort of have everybody have gone through all of the modules and had a first run of everything. And we are now officially at scale, which is really exciting and is something that we've been working towards for since the launch of the program and getting up to sort of full scale. And we are. So that's the newest thing in my life, my sort of corner of the admissions office. But I'll let my colleagues also talk about some of the more new and exciting things happening at Questrom as well.
Before the rest of you jump in, Liz, can I just ask you, what do you mean by scale? What does that mean for Questrom?
Sure. So for us, it means sort of at scale and we really look at scale as opposed to quality at scale. And so it's really important for us that we maintain the quality of the program, the quality of the experience, while also bringing it to as many people as we can. And so really the price point of the Online MBA paired with the sheer volume allows for more individuals to be able to participate in an MBA program. And that's something that's really sort of important to us and is at the cornerstone of building out this program. And so for us, it's over 500 in every incoming class, essentially every 6 months. So we are enrolling a class of about 500 every January and every August. So it is busy. It keeps me on my toes, but we are thrilled. We've got a class just over 500 that are starting in about 2 weeks. And then we will do it all again in January. So it's not only, a large number of people, but to us, it's ensuring that quality. It's the same faculty that teach in our residential programs are teaching in the Online MBA. We've got a ton of learning facilitators and support in the program because we are at scale, and we've really mapped out what that means to us here at Questrom, and having that quality is so critical.
That is so impressive, like 500 per semester. And one more question about that is this Online MBA program 1 or 2 years long or something in between?
That's a great question, Eric. It is 2 years or a full 24 months. So you have up to 6 years to complete the degree. So you do have some flexibility if you want to take a semester off, but it's designed to be done very quickly. And it's faster than a lot of part-time programs, including our residential part-time program. And there's some reason behind that. And I'm happy to talk about that in a little while. But yeah, it's about 2 years to do. We're finding most people are doing in about 2 years. But there's certainly a population of students that are like, I'm going to take the summer off. And that is absolutely fine too.
I think you guys were in a pretty unique position because very shortly after COVID shut everything down and schools were looking to figure out how they're going to open up again, you guys were in such a good position to launch this program because, as you said, it was already in the works, right? And it just came out, I think it launched September 2020. And the other thing I had heard was about the very interesting price point that is very, very competitive with typical full-time MBA programs. So that's all very interesting stuff for BU Questrom. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to hog the spotlight with you, Liz. But either Marisa or Anya, who wants to go next to talk about what's new and exciting?
Sure. I think I can start talking about some of the kind of new initiatives that we have in our residential programs. I think, one of the things that we've started doing in our full-time program is around some of our experiential learning options, and our full-time students this past year started doing what we call an action learning project in their second year. In their second semester of their first year. So all of our first year full-time students work in teams on projects with live projects with companies throughout their second semester. So they've had kind of a first semester of some of their core classes, and then during their second semester, alongside of the remainder of their core classes and starting their elective courses, they're working with companies on projects that are actually meaningful to that company. So the companies are selected specifically to be companies that really need this work from our students, and also companies where our students can really have a lot of face time with company leadership. The companies that we are working with are small in nature, and we really want our students to be able to have regular meetings and regular FaceTime with the CEOs of the company, with that company leadership, to help to grow their experience in their careers. I think we have some new initiatives in terms of some specific programs. I think Anya will probably talk about one of the new certificate programs with the part-time program. We are in kind of final approval mode for a new dual degree in our full-time program, which is a dual degree with a master's in energy. So folks in that program will be in our social impact MBA, specializing in energy and environmental sustainability at Questrom, and then getting their master's in energy with our School of Arts and Sciences at Questrom. So, some of the kind of overall program enhancements, and then also new and additional programs within those residential programs that we have.
Thanks, Marisa. And so, just something about this, it's a 2-year MBA, right? How many students or how many participants are in the full-time MBA program?
Sure. We bring in about 150 to 160 each year for the full-time program.
Okay, it's a little bit more of a tighter knit batch.
Yeah. And then you're cohorted in your first semester when you come in. So you're taking that first semester, you're taking classes with the same about 50 to 60 students for that first semester.
So it's already a little bit of a different experience than you're going to have in the program that Liz spoke about. All right, Anya, do you want to?
Sure. So, like Marisa mentioned, the PEMBA program, Professional Evening MBA program, actually has a brand new certificate that you can do as part of the program. It's a certificate focusing on business analytics. So, along with your MBA, you get a certificate focusing in on the business analytics field. Some of the classes actually are able to double count. So you only need to take a couple additional classes to get that certificate, which is really exciting because there are ways in the full-time MBA to focus on things like digital technology that our PEMBA students haven't in the past had the full opportunity to dive into quite as much other than in the elective space. And this way we're able to continue growing opportunities for PEMBA students. We're able to give them even more of the opportunities that our full-time students have had, which is something we're always working to do. We're always looking at the curriculum of the PEMBA program, always making tweaks to make sure it's the best possible curriculum. So it's something we're really excited about. It is just launching, actually, for students very recently. It was just approved. So we're really excited to be able to bring new students into that certificate program along with their MBA.
Awesome. And maybe you could just distinguish for some of our our viewers today. And by the way, anyone who has any questions, whether you're joining us through LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, you can feel free to write in any questions at any time, and one of the panelists will be happy to answer. But just to differentiate for our viewers, the difference between a professional MBA and an executive MBA.
Sure. So what we have here at Questrom is our professional evening MBA. It is designed so that so that students have a lot more kind of the access in terms of both resources and in terms of classes being taken that our full-time students use. So students are able to do career concentration. Students have full access to things like, career development. There are those case competitions. It's a program that can take anywhere from 2 to 6 years, depending on how slowly or quickly a student wants to go. It's for students, I think the mid 80% range is pretty broad. It's 2 to 11 years, but it's for students who are, not beginning, but earlier to mid-career. So students who might be wanting to make a shift in their career are able to really take advantage of this program without stopping working. They're able to continue working while getting that degree, where, an executive MBA might be more for people who are even further up in their career, who are looking to just take the next jump. This gives students the opportunity to do that, or to maybe make a career shift, whatever it is they're looking to do, while continuing to move up in that career at the same time.
That's clear. Thank you. Okay. So today's episode of MBA Waves. Oh, sorry, Bara.
I've got a question. So you have these 3 different programs, and I'm curious if all of the requirements for admission, and since I'm coming from the test prep world, is it the same? Or is it like the PEMBA program just accepts the EA? Or so how do you differentiate? And can a student apply? Will a student apply to just a particular program? And would you look at them and say, oh, they'd actually be better in our other program? Do you have that kind of communication between you?
Good questions.
Yeah, maybe I'll start and then pass it over to Marisa. So we do have different requirements for different degrees. So they are all getting an MBA. It's the same MBA regardless of your modality at Questrom. But particularly on the test prep, there is some differences. So for the online MBA, we don't require the GMAT or the GRE. But say on the full-time side, we have waiver opportunities. I'll let Marisa speak to those. I just lost my train of thought. What was I had some brilliant point, I'm sure. But I was just going to say, that we really have the opportunity to find the degree that fits you. And so we absolutely work closely together. Marisa will say, hey, I have this candidate that's applied to the full-time MBA, but they have a ton of work experience. I actually think they're maybe a better fit for the online MBA. Do you want to take a look? And vice versa. But at Questrom, you can only apply to one of our MBA programs. So you can't apply to all 3 and kind of cast a wide net. You kind of really need to narrow down which is the best fit for you. And that's really our job to help you. I think that they are 3 similar yet also different programs, and they serve different audiences for different purposes. And so our job is to help students figure out which is really going to be the best fit for them, and then help take them to that next level. But Marisa, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Sure. And I'll talk about tests in a moment. What I will say, in addition to that kind of finding the best fit, if you are unsure, you are always welcome to speak with any of us in the office to start to have that conversation. We have plenty of advising sessions that are always available. You can find those through our websites. We're all kind of always happy to kind of help you navigate which one might be the right program for you. Because ultimately we want you to be successful in the right program, right? And we want you to find the one that really is the one that speaks to you. And so, from at kind of different time points in the application process, whether it's really when you're just thinking about the degree and thinking about what you might want to do, and you want to speak with one of us, have an advising session, to, as Liz was talking about, once you've applied, the 3 of us kind of looking at applications and thinking maybe it's a better fit somewhere else. We definitely do that. To speak to the requirements, really the biggest difference in this upcoming year is going to be in the full-time program, going back to that test required. We will have waiver opportunities in the full-time program, and those will be up on our website in the next few weeks, and there'll be a form up on the website if you feel that you fit one of those waiver requirements. But we're looking, if you already have a master's degree or an advanced degree, if you already have a quantitative certificate like a CPA or a CFA, if you did your undergrad in a quantitative field, so one of the STEM fields, business, statistics, math, engineering, with no GPA kind of requirement there, or if you did your undergrad in any other kind of field with a 3.1 or above. What I will say is those are the kind of base requirements of being able to request that waiver. We'll still look through your documents that you submit. We'll ask you to submit your resume and your transcripts for us to be able to approve that waiver or not. But if you believe that you fit into one of those categories, definitely look at our website in the next few weeks for those forms to ask for that waiver.
Okay, I'm going to get in the weeds for just a minute.
Yeah.
So
please.
let's say you can get a waiver, right? Let's say you've got an economics master's degree.
Sure.
If you take the GRE or the EA, do you accept the EA also for the full-time, or just the GMAT?
We don't accept the EA for the full-time. We accept either the GMAT or the GRE.
Got it. So let's say that someone really qualifies across the board for waivers, but takes the GMAT, if they score, is it a good thing for them to still take the GMAT? Would you look at that positively?
I think,
or can you not tell me?
No, I definitely can tell you. I think the place where I would always recommend, if the test is something that you have the ability to take and you think that you have the ability to give us a successful test, I think that, the test is going to be one of the factors that we are going to look at in scholarship. So it's going to be helpful in that sense. It's always another area that we can look at in admissions that kind of adds to that profile for you. If you feel like your profile is great, you have great undergrad grades or master's grades, everything else looks good. It looks, you've looked at our class profile, you look stellar across the board, and you really just don't have the ability to take that test, it's perfectly fine to ask for a waiver, but it will be one of the factors that we do look at in scholarship.
And I would just add, even for the online MBA, where it's not required, we definitely have students that submit the scores, and like Marisa said, especially if you have a good score, it's not going to hurt your application. And it's another thing that we can look at, and one of the things we're looking at is your quantitative aptitude. So if we don't have that evidence in your undergraduate education, then we might look to see, did they take the GMAT or the GRE? And look, they did. Oh no, look, they did really well in their quantitative score. Great, we don't have any concerns. Or they, like me, studied history and rhetoric and have no quantitative in their background. And then if we have no evidence, it's harder for us to sort of make sure that you are successfully, academically successful in the program. And so it's something that I encourage applicants to consider, even for the online MBA where it's not required, if it's going to help bolster their application or show evidence of their quantitative abilities. So we definitely have students in the online, even though it's not required, that still go ahead and submit those scores.
PEMBA is really similar to the online in that sense, because we do have a lot of students who come in from non-traditional business backgrounds in terms of both career and what they studied. So I'll often talk to students about the fact that, they studied history and rhetoric, or they may have studied English. I was actually speaking to a student earlier today who was asking about that because she studied English in undergrad. And the fact that the work she does is somewhat quantitative, but not heavily so. And the fact that the test can really help her application stand out in showing that she comes from non-traditional background, but will have the ability to be successful. So even though we don't require the test for PEMBA, it can certainly be a benefit.
I would say the other thing about the test is if you've been out of school for a while, sometimes just the prep work that you have to do to take the test can help get your head back into that space that you need to be in to start the program, right? And so there are other ways that you can do that, things like MBA math and different prep programs, but just the kind of prep work that you have to undertake to be able to take that test can help. If you've been out for a while, you haven't taken a math class in a long time. I was like that when I took the GMAT. You can sometimes use that to start to kind of get back into that space of thinking that you're going to need to be in as you start classes.
Absolutely. Like they say, the GMAT is your first MBA class. Bara, thanks for those really pertinent questions. And thank you, Liz, Marisa, and Anya for those really thoughtful responses. And, all of those things make me think of, as an admissions consultant with Candidate Coach, like I always, advise my clients to front load their research. And as you were saying, like, with Questrom, you can't apply for all three or even two of them. It's really important to understand which is the best and most adapted. And by getting to know the three of you and speaking to you as well as current students and alumni is the best way to figure out which is the best and most suitable program to apply for. So what I was going to say earlier, and when I finish my question, I'm going to run over there and turn on the fan because it's 106 degrees here in Paris, or like 42 for those who, the rest of the world who uses Celsius. But anyway, I was being kind for the US. So today's episode theme on MBA Waves is about creating value, right? So I wanted to ask, you guys have shared so much already, but I wanted to just ask if there's anything else that comes to your minds, some of the standout or unique features of each of the three Questrom MBA programs that aims to create value for the world.
I think for me, what really kind of stands out for the program is kind of the way that we think about business, right? I think it's a program that really focuses on ethical business. It's a program that really looks at the impact that business has on the world around us. And so in our full-time program and in our PEMBA program, students can choose to specialize in social impact or in healthcare. We have our social impact MBA and our health sector MBA as kind of specializations within our MBA. But even if you are not in one of those specializations, cases that you see and the way that we look at those cases will always kind of include discussions about the impact that our decisions make on the people around us and on the communities and world around us. So not just looking at that kind of financial bottom line, really focusing also on other things that our decisions affect. And so for us, the value that we create is not just financial value, it's value to the world. And we look at that especially with our social impact MBA and our health sector MBA, but really across the board with any of our programs, and really thinking about those kind of ethical questions as we make decisions in the programs.
Nice to hear. Any of Anya or Liz want to chime in?
Yeah, I'll jump in as well. I mean, I think Marisa hit the nail on the head. And what I love is that we've built sort of ethical leadership into all of our curricular experiences at Questrom. So even in the online MBA, you have 6 modules. Ethics and sort of leadership is one of the 6 modules, and sort of leading with integrity is really, really important. And I like to think of sort of our tagline of creating value for the world as sort of creating value for yourself, creating value for the company or organization that you work for, and for the world around you at large. And sort of it can be threefold. And I think that one of the things that really sets Questrom apart is intentionally building this sort of ethical leadership and weaving it into every experience of every single MBA student. And I think that is really, really important. And I don't want to echo everything Marisa said, but I think sort of just drawing attention to that's part of every curricular experience as a Questrom MBA has, I think really sets us apart sort of in the market.
I think the fact that also all three of us can talk to that, and it's not the fact that the online MBA has also incorporated that, and the part-time or professional evening MBA has incorporated that, I think speaks to the way that Questrom isn't just making that, one little piece of, one program. It's a fundamental part of what we are as a whole school, and the fact that you're able to put all of these concepts into practice in your classes because we're so focused on community and collaboration. And so you're able to practice leadership skills within a group, within the classes in which you're learning about these concepts. I think it's one of the things that helps create value and also helps us stand out in all of the programs we're talking about here.
The combination of the last couple of questions makes me think of, it makes sense. It's logical that the 3 different programs, although they attract different audiences, as you said, for different needs and so forth, different populations, yet there's a lot of shared values across them, because it makes sense you share the same institution. So what I'm wondering is, do the participants in the 3 MBA programs represented today, do they have a lot of interaction with each other? In other words, are there shared classes, are there shared projects, are there shared trips? Obviously, they share the same alumni network, but what can you speak to that?
I think our full-time and our PEMBA program and our professional evening program probably share the most. Our part-time and our full-time students actually take electives together. So your core classes that you take kind of at the beginning of each program, you're taking within each separate program. But once you get into electives, many of the electives that the full-time students take are taken with PEMBA students. All of the electives that PEMBA students take are with full-time students. And so there's really a lot of collaboration there. All of the kind of outside the classroom opportunities that are available to both full-time and PEMBA students. So clubs will have both full-time and PEMBA, student council, any of the trips and experiential learning opportunities, case competitions, things like that, all include both full-time and PEMBA students. So those two populations definitely have a lot of collaboration and learn from each other. For us, it's great from both sides. I think it allows us to expand the number of elective offerings that we have because it expands the population of people who take those classes. For our full-time students, it's awesome because they're sitting in these elective classes as they're getting ready to graduate with people who are currently working at the companies that they are looking to work at. And so it really expands their current networking. They're able to sit in those classes. I know I'm an alum of our PEMBA program actually, and I think our most popular student in our class one year was worked in HR at Liberty Mutual, and we all went to him with our cover letter saying, "Would this be something you would pull off the pile?" It just really allows our full-time students who have taken 2 years out of the workforce to really get back into making those networks with people who are working currently in those companies. I'll let Liz speak a little bit to kind of how the online fits into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that with the online program, they're not able to take any of the on-campus classes. So we sort of differentiate the residential programs versus the online program. But they are, some of our student clubs and organizations have reached out and said we would like to include the online students in this conference or this event. And one of the big things we're talking about that I'm really excited about is for our residential students, we have 500 students who they can network with and who are in jobs they want already because they're maybe a little bit more along in their career. And so it's a really great opportunity. And we're talking with the alumni office as well as the career office on how we can partner some of our early career professionals with our online MBAs who are a little bit further down the road in their career and utilize mentorship programs or just opportunities to say, hey, we have this great opening and you're a really great fit, and leaning on this fantastic resource for our residential students in our online MBA students. And so I see a world in which there's going to be a lot more collaboration down the road. To be honest with you, I think the last 2 years was more just getting the program up and running and figuring out what this is and what this looks like and who we are as an online MBA program. But now that we have finished or about to finish all 6 modules, I think there's this fantastic opportunity to really collaborate more as the Questrom School of Business and take it sort of to that next level.
It's funny, Eric, I saw at graduation this year, this was the first time we had our online students graduate, right? And they had the opportunity to come in person to graduate. And it was really because they were just in line. Everyone was graduating at the same time and in the same group and just alphabetical and in line. And it was really fun to get to see those interactions with students from all 3 programs who had gotten to know each other or were getting to know each other in line at graduation and having that experience kind of going across the stage.
And I think that that's helpful also because, for the full-time program and for PEMBA, our students are here in Boston, right? Whereas, business students in the online MBA can be anywhere and they can, just about anywhere. And so students who might be thinking, if, a full-time student who might be thinking that they want to move somewhere else after graduation, can then potentially kind of through networking, maybe work with, meet some of these online students, get to know them, get to learn about opportunities and make those connections outside of the Boston network. And then students from anywhere else in the world who might want to kind of, on the other hand, learn more about Boston will have those connections as well.
Nice. And it makes sense as they're, transitioning to becoming alumni that they're sharing that group, right? And like you said, all groups mixed together alphabetically coming across the stage. So it's a kind of a very symbolic rite of passage, let's say.
Yeah, that also brings to mind, and I think you've all sort of touched upon this, is that there's a culture, right? There's a culture that each of your schools are creating, and we're always talking in the MBA world about finding the right fit, that the student has the right fit, and it's great that all of you also speak to each other, right? It's not only someone trying to figure out what's the right fit for them academically, but I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about the unique flavor that you're delivering the nuts and bolts of the MBA and what the unique culture either at the schools or at the BU program is, if you can elaborate on that.
Sure. I think it's a really collaborative program. I always like to say, if you don't like working on a team, don't come to Questrom. It's not the place for you. Granted, business is probably not the place for you, but I think you are going to be really kind of thrown into a teaming culture and a collaborative culture right from the start. In our full-time program, during launch, which is what we call our orientation, you are going to spend a day out on Thompson Island, which is an island off the coast of Boston run by Outward Bound, and doing ropes courses and teaming activities. And that is really kind of like the start of the program. But that teaming curriculum is thread throughout the program. We have a faculty member, Paul Hutchinson, he goes by Hutch, who really has developed this program and will be developing that program through all of our programs at Questrom. And that kind of sets up the community within Questrom to have that collaboration, to come into classes that are very discussion based and have students who are coming from all different backgrounds, as Anya talked about, coming from, all different sectors and jobs and cultures and countries and everything, to come together and speak to cases and have conversations about what they're learning. What it creates is a place where students really help each other. It is not a cutthroat community. It's not a place where students are kind of clawing over each other to get the best grade. That's also, if that's you, this is not the place to be. It is a place where if you're struggling in accounting, you know that your teammate, that your classmate is going to help you, because down the road, you're going to be able to help them in marketing because that's your background, right? And it's just kind of unspoken or spoken what happens in the community. That goes to job search as well. We have students who go to an interview for a job and think, oh, my friend would really like this job too. And maybe shooting themselves in the foot, tell, other classmates about the job opportunity because they think it also would be a good fit for them. It's just what happens and has just always happened at Questrom. That's kind of who we are. And so that kind of is the culture that has been developed and cultivated here, which just makes it a really good place to learn. It's like a comfortable place to learn for students.
I also think the deliberate nature of the way that, a community at large, but then, cohorts within that community are built is really important. I know that when we're working to kind of build who's going to be in what group, who's going to be in what cohort, it's not random, but it's not always necessarily just, okay, it's who's going to work well together, who can learn from each other really well, because we want everyone to make sure they can learn from everyone else. So in building our community, I think the fact that it's so deliberate is important, because as we were talking about, the PEMBA students can learn from full-time students can learn from PEMBA students, AMBA students will be able to bring a new perspective. So I think the deliberate nature of creating that community where people are collaborating so much is an important thing that we really try and think about. And the fact that we try and build up that community early on, it's not, students are getting to know each other before they even get to campus to start their programs. So I think the fact that we're trying to encourage that speaks to the culture of Questrom.
Yeah, it sounds like a really collaborative community culture has been developed there, and that's fantastic. It's really, I think, helps people to develop in a comfortable way. So you guys have already talked a little bit about some admissions things regarding GMAT and so forth, but any suggestions that you would offer to our viewers today who might be applying to your program so they know what they can expect? Like what suggestions would you offer in terms of being a great candidate or a great applicant for Questrom, regardless of the program? You can do the tour.
I think a couple things come to mind. One of the big things we talk a lot about in admissions is sort of authenticity. Be your authentic self. Don't say what you think we want to hear, but be yourself, and that will shine through. And so I would say that's the big one. And, spending time on things like your essay, which is, I believe for the online MBA, it's required for full-time. You have sort of an either or situation, but in either case, it's an essay or sort of a video, for lack of a better word, essay. It's sort of a video assessment. But it's an opportunity, again, for you to sort of speak directly to those reading your file and to really showcase why now, why this particular program, and why it's going to get you to your goals. And so you have this amazing opportunity through the essay and through your application generally to really map out why you're doing this. This is a huge investment, regardless of program, in yourself and in your future. And so you want to take your time with your application and really think through why you're doing this. And once you've done that, I think applying is actually the easy part, because it will come really naturally in writing up that essay or answering those Kira Talent assessment questions, or whatever the particular application looks like. If you're authentic and you know why, and you've thought through, you don't want to go to business school because you don't know what else to do. That is a terrible reason. You want to do this because this is the right school and the right degree, and it works for you and your life and your personal life or professional life, your goals, everything needs to align. And so I think really taking your time to think through that and why is really important. And I would take it a step further and say, get beyond us. We are paid to say nice things. Talk to students. We all have admissions ambassadors who are there to answer your questions, and they will be brutally honest with you and tell you about their experiences. If you are in the Boston area and you're considering both the part-time on-campus option and the online part-time option, talk to students in both programs, and that will help you figure out which might be the better fit for what you're looking for. So I would say trying to be authentic, figure out why you're doing this up front, and then getting beyond us is really once you've thought through why, you're going to have a really strong application, because that authenticity will shine right through in your file.
Liz, that's all really good advice. And I think I'd like to ask you to be on my team at Candidate Coach. Yes, you mentioned, you made reference to Kira Talent. And for those of us who are watching today, not everyone might not know what that is. They are a company that provides a platform for applicants to many business schools around the country and around the world to do some kind of video essay, right? I assume that's the way in which you're using Kira. And is that across all three programs here today?
So for our full-time and our PEMBA program, we give an option. You can either give us a written essay, or you can do a set of video essays through Kira Talent. It doesn't matter which one you do. It's really whatever you feel most comfortable with, or you think kind of shows you off the best. So if you're someone who the idea of Kira Talent, it's terrifying, do your written essay. And if you're someone who is good at extemporaneous speaking and feels like it will show off your personality, give us a Kira Talent. We love seeing both, especially those of us who read a lot of applications every day. We like having a mix of both. For our online, I believe they do both, correct me if I'm wrong. But essentially what it is you have a little opportunity to practice. You will see a question kind of read to you. You have a little bit of time to kind of jot some notes down, and then you have about a minute to answer that question. We don't mean for those to be super professional and you have to be in a business suit and you have to be exactly correct through it. It's really a chance for us to see who you are, get to know who you are, see your personality. So if you start doing the Kira Talent and you trip over your words a little bit, it's really okay. It's really just a chance for us to get to know who you are.
And I just one clarifying point.
Super kind. It sounds like, I was just going to say, it's really kind that it's so flexible that people can choose that they feel more comfortable doing the traditional written essay versus the video essay, which is a little bit more modern twist on things.
For full-time and part-time. Yeah, for online, they have to do both.
I was going to say, for the online, they do still have to do the real essay, the written essay. But then optionally, they're welcome to add on a Kira Talent to sort of, it's essentially for the online, because it's such a big program, it's in lieu of an interview. So instead of having the opportunity to interview all of our candidates, we are offering the Kira assessment as an optional sort of add-on. But just, I don't want anyone getting their hopes up for the online MBA. You still have to do the essay, but I promise it's not too painful.
But you know what? That makes sense because they're going to do an online program. They need to demonstrate that they can communicate through a screen. And as far as, Marissa's point about you don't need to be super I mean, look, I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. I mean, like, this is live action. This is like, nobody's expecting like the formal kind of thing. I think that's a bit old mentality. And I think that's a bit more approachable at least my experience with Kira and the schools that use that service. So very cool. Yeah, I think that's enough for.
I was going to say, in talking about what we're wearing, I was thinking today, like it's chilly in San Francisco right now, and I was like, but how could I possibly wear a turtleneck? But it's chilly today. I wanted to have some empathy for all of you in a heat wave, but it's really cold today. I wanted to also underscore what one of you said, apply, like don't write about you have nothing better to do, and really just think about if going to any grad school, business school, law school, like if it's nothing better to do, to really take an opportunity to do the work on yourself, to figure out what is it that you want to do in the world, right? Because you really want to, it takes a lot of effort, time, money, devotion, and certainly writing an essay about not having anything better to do is not going to get you in really anywhere, right? That's just not, it's not dynamic or exciting. So just to underscore that. In terms of visiting, what are let's leap over to that. Like, do you have a virtual tour that you recommend people to go through, or can people come to campus now that things with COVID have been a little bit relaxed? Although it's not San Francisco, we're having a surge, but what's happened with Questrom?
Sure. We have a number of different opportunities, both virtual and in person. So we have started bringing back a lot of different in-person opportunities to look at our programs. We will have a number of different events coming up, starting later this summer and into the fall, including information sessions and application workshops and opportunities to network in different ways and learn about different areas of our programs. Those will be both virtual and in person. So if you can be in Boston and you can come see our campus, which we think is great, because it's a really great way to get to know that feel of the school, to get that gut feeling of, can I be in this classroom? If you're looking at the full-time or part-time program, can I be in this classroom for 2, 3, 4 years? It's a great way to get to know the program. But if you can't, get to know us virtually. Do one of our virtual sessions, get to know some of our students in a virtual session. We'll be going back to class visits for our full-time and our part-time program. So you'll have the opportunity starting probably early October to come in and sit in on one of our classes in the evening. We'll also have some opportunity to do some mock classes virtually as well. So from wherever you are, you have the opportunity to kind of get to know us in different ways.
And I just want to put in a plug on August 9th. So August 9th, we are having an MBA program showcase. So you can come log on virtually. I think it's going to be at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And it's an opportunity to sort of hear a little bit more about each of the MBA programs at Questrom, as well as our MSMS program. And so it starts with an overview of Questrom generally, then goes into a sort of 5 minutes on each program, super high level. And then we go into breakout rooms where you can meet community members and learn more in depth about each of the MBA and the MSMS degrees at Questrom. So if that is of interest to you, you can sign up right on our website. It's sort of our premier event of the summer. And it is an awesome, awesome way to sort of in an hour learn a lot about Questrom and the offerings in from a virtual setting.
Thanks, Liz. And if there's a specific website, you can pop that into the chat and I'll share it on the screen if you want to share that. But meanwhile, I wanted to ask about one of the big parts of a lot of MBA programs. Like a lot of the MBA programs around the world include something that's sort of a consulting project. And I know that may differ in name and in detail among the three programs here today, but what student projects does Questrom offer for their three MBA programs?
Sure. For the full-time program, we have that action learning project that I talked about at the beginning that happens in that second year, or second semester of the first year. I keep screwing that up. There are also specific elective classes that students can take that include a consulting component to it. One in particular that's quite popular is one that includes a trip to Beijing at the end because you're consulting to companies that are in China. And our fingers crossed, we're hoping to bring that trip back. The last couple of years, that trip has been virtual, but we're hoping our students will be able to get back to Beijing at the end of first semester this year. There are also a number of different opportunities to consult outside of the classroom as well. One of our premier extracurricular activities at Questrom is something called Link Day, where we bring in nonprofit organizations from all over Boston who need some help, but they're nonprofit organizations and can't necessarily afford, the top consulting companies in the area. And our students team up and spend a day really working closely with these organizations to solve some of the challenges that they have. It is kind of run by our social impact club, but students from across the community, both full-time and part-time, participate in that. And it has been going on for a very long time at Questrom, is very popular with our students and very popular with the Boston community and the nonprofit community in Boston.
Nice. Any of the other two programs offer some kind of... Sorry, Bara.
Go ahead, Eric. Go ahead.
I was just asking if any of the other two programs have some kind of consulting projects that are similar that you guys wanted to mention.
So on the online side, not as much, more because our students are our consulting projects. So actually for Mod 2, which is our really quantitative module, the students actually build a data dashboard. And a lot of them actually use that opportunity. There's a capstone, an action-oriented capstone at the end of each module in the Online MBA. And a lot of our students will use that for projects at work. So I know of a student that found a challenge at work, built his data dashboard for Mod 2, and then gave it to his work. And now his entire work uses the data dashboard that he made in his Online MBA sort of project. So there are a lot of opportunities where you can get involved in things like that, but it's going to look a little bit different, in part because our students are working full-time throughout the duration of the program, and just in the way the program is set up through the modules. There are affinity groups also that are sort of based in consulting. They look a little bit different than the student groups and student organizations on the residential side, but certainly there is opportunity in the Online MBA if that is of interest.
Similarly, the PEMBA students are also working throughout the whole program. So, the students are able to bring kind of that work perspective into the classroom, from a good number of them might be working for consulting groups already and doing that kind of work. And so they're able to bring that in to the classroom in the projects that they're doing, that, they're much more the project in a much more similar way to what Liz said, to what Marisa said.
Though I would say the consulting classes that are electives like that,
right?
Or participating in Link Day, things like that are open because both PEMBA and full-time take all of those electives. They're open to
right. The project, the like larger project that we were talking about earlier is specific to full-time.
So can we leapfrog from the consulting projects over to career services? And obviously people who are going into MBA programs are spending a small fortune. And can you talk a little bit about the career services at Questrom and what graduates can expect in terms of employment opportunities, both for local and also for the online program where they could be really anywhere?
Maybe I'll kick us off because it's quicker and easier to answer, and then I'll send it over to the options on the residential side. But for the online MBA, I will be really frank that the career service offerings are limited. Some of that is due to resources and price point. With a different price point, it comes, with higher price tag comes a lot more resources, but it doesn't mean you don't have support. So we aren't a good fit for someone who's looking to make a major career change and needs a lot of career support, because that support just isn't there. So in the online MBA, you don't have access to a one-on-one counselor. You can't walk into the Feld Center and have an appointment. But it doesn't mean you don't have any resources whatsoever. You do have access to the job boards. You have access to all of the online resources. So the AI technology to do resume review, things like that, you have access to, but you don't really have access to that like one-on-one career counseling that you might need to really be successful in your job search. And it's really, I'll be honest, where Questrom shines on the residential side is in the support and services that they have available for their students. And so we have some of those on the online MBA. But like I said, most of our students are very well established in their career and are just looking to move up. So they don't need all of that really sort of heavy hand holding because of where they are in their career and what they're looking to do. So we tend to have students that are looking for something different coming out of the program and don't need to rely on those career services. But I want to be really transparent of sort of what is and isn't available on the online side. But on the full-time and part-time on campus side runs the gamut. So I'll let my colleagues take over because this is their moment to really shine.
So on the full-time side, our career team will be really the first people that you meet after us. So if you are admitted and you decide to enroll with us, right from the beginning of the summer, you begin to work with our career team, with our career coaches. They are going to work with you on kind of thinking about what you want to be doing, thinking about what type of role you want to be in, what type of sector you want to be in, working on your resume, working on your LinkedIn presence, because as a full-time MBA student, you're going to hit the ground running in that search for an internship, right? And specifically in certain sectors. So if you are looking at consulting, it's almost like the first day of class, you are starting to interview for those consulting roles, some other roles as well. Some other areas, if you're looking for a job, an internship in nonprofit, it's going to come much later in the year. But the kind of process of that moves very quickly for full-time students. So you are kind of working through and required to work with our career services kind of throughout the program in that way. They will work with you, like I said, on resume, on LinkedIn, on interview skills. They will do mock interviews with you that are tailored to the type of interview that you have. Again, consulting interview, very different than a nonprofit management interview. They will help along the way with salary negotiation, all of those different things that kind of come with looking for a job. We also have a team within our career services that really are more outwardly focused and are more of our kind of industry relations specialists, right? They work mostly on kind of making those connections with companies in different industries and different sectors. They are really focused on making connections with our alumni, on bringing companies in to recruit, on bringing companies in to have fairs here. When COVID happened, pivoting and doing a lot of virtual career fairs and career networking and workshops, but starting to bring back in person. So those two teams together really kind of create that support network for our full-time students that happen really integrated throughout those 2 years that they're here. On the PEMBA side, it's all still available to you. It's just not required because not all of our PEMBA students are looking for a full job change like our full-time students are. So all of those resources are there for you, and with kind of specific people for the PEMBA students who are really focused on the PEMBA students, but it's not required for you. It's there for you if you want it. But you don't have to use them. Our full-time students, you have to use them because that is what you're going to need to do coming out of the program. But there's a lot of support there for you. What I will say is they won't give you a job. They're not going to find you a job, right? It is on you to find the job. And one of our career staff once said to me, and I love the way that they talked about this, is 10 years from now, when you look for the next job, there's not going to be a kind of fair of people standing on your lawn handing you pens, handing you the swag from their company, trying to get you to their company. So their job is also to help you learn how to network for the next job and the next job and the next job, not just kind of hand you that first job. So you have to put in the work and you have to put in that networking effort and that networking work, but they kind of in turn give you that support to be able to do that.
I know what you're alluding to, Marisa, and in the MBA world, especially when it comes to career services, there's a dirty word known as placement. And I'm not sure really where that comes from, but for some people somewhere in the world, there's perhaps an idea that there's a job handed to you on a plate, and that does not. I don't know anywhere, at least not in North America or Europe, where that's the case. This is just
nice, but no.
It's the whole give a man to fish kind of metaphor.
Right.
So give an MBA student the skills to fish for a job, so it's a lot of polishing and teaching skills and providing or embracing a network and learning how to go out there, and also to be resilient. There's a lot of
absolutely
the whole emotional side to the job. So it is a job to find a job, and you have all the support and helping to make connections, but no one's handing you a job, as you said. So I just wanted to underscore that this is not something uniquely or Questrom or something deficient at all about Questrom. There's a colleague of ours who had made a comment more about a master's, so not MBA, right? I don't know if any of you want to respond to that. Thomas is a coach also based here in Europe.
Sure. I can speak very briefly, and then you can certainly connect with us and we can get you to the right people on our team. We have a master's in management studies program that is geared towards folks coming right out of undergrad or just like a year or so out of undergrad without business experience. So really students who studied STEM or humanities, social sciences, and they are looking for, it's a kind of a year program, and they're just looking for that kind of extra management piece to get that leg up into the career, into their first career. So that program is a mix of classroom learning and experiential learning. It's a mix of kind of being in the classroom and learning management skills, and then also doing kind of live consulting projects with companies and organizations that come in and work with those MSMS students. But it's very specifically geared. So students who have a business undergrad would not be considered good applicants, or really would not be considered for that program. And students who have a number of years out from their undergrad studies would not be considered for that program. It's really kind of more specifically geared. Students who do that program can go on later to get their MBA, and some have, but it really is geared for people who are kind of looking to start their career in the field that they studied in undergrad, but get that kind of next level to not go into it as an entry level role.
Thanks, Marisa. I'm just noticing we're almost up on an hour. We have a couple of minutes left before, and I don't want to take too much of more of your time, but I do want to talk a little about a population that's very, very important and near and dear to every MBA program. That is the alumni. And I've often heard and even found myself saying an MBA program is as good as its alumni network, right? So what are alumni doing with Questrom? What kind of services also exist for them at BU Questrom?
Sure. Our alums are everywhere. We actually, Anya and I were just last night at an event that we had for incoming students, current students, and alumni, and we got to see a bunch of alums come back to hang out, which was awesome. But we have alums everywhere in the world, and just as we have a really diverse incoming group of students, we have a really diverse group of alums who work in all different sectors, kind of all across the world. We certainly have a lot of alums in the Boston area from our full-time and our part-time programs, obviously, but our alums really go everywhere. And now that we have the online program, certainly we'll have alums. We have now our first group of alums, but we'll have alums really, really everywhere through that online program. I think what I love, and I speak to this also because I am an alum myself of the program, what I love about the program and being part of this kind of smaller program within a large university is having access to both the alumni network of Questrom and the larger alumni network of Boston University. It's like the concentric circles, right? So I have my alumni network of my PEMBA program specifically. I have my broader Questrom alumni network, which is awesome, and getting to connect with people through all of the systems that we have to do that. But I'm also an alum of Boston University. So the Questrom alumni network is about 55,000 strong. The Boston University alumni network is about 300,000 strong. And there might, we were talking about job search. You might be looking at a company and there's not a Questrom alum at that company. There's certainly a Boston University alum at that company, and you have access to that alumni network as well. But our alums are doing really cool things kind of across the world. A lot of, with that health sector and social impact program, people starting cool businesses and organizations and initiatives. We have our Innovate at BU program, where we're really getting students who are looking at entrepreneurship and innovation and starting initiatives coming out of the program. And so you see students kind of creating their own companies and their own jobs, and students becoming leaders at the jobs that they have. So we love seeing them and meeting them when we're out on the road recruiting.
Super exciting.
Yeah,
you guys are everywhere.
Yeah.
Listen, we're about an hour in now, so I think we're going to wrap it up. First of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you, Marisa, Anya, and Liz. First of all, thank you everyone in the audience who joined us today live, who's watching this playback after the fact, and especially everyone who asked questions. For those of you looking for more information for all three of the programs, it's very simple. Questrom is very clever in creating an email address that's very memorable, mba@bu.edu. Can't forget that one. So for any questions about all three of these programs, that's the best way, as I'm told. Anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Yes, thanks for having us. This was great, and don't hesitate to reach out. Send us an email at MBA, and if you put one of our names, it will get sent on to us. So we are more than happy to connect with anyone that has more questions about any of the programs.
Super organized. I love it. Anyway, for those of you who are loyal MBA Waves fans, don't forget to join us next week. We have a really interesting topic. We're going to talk about playing the long game and why starting much earlier generally optimizes your admissions results. We'll be joined by fellow coach and friend Thomas Calandranis. So that said, thank you all for joining us today, and have a great week.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.